By the time World War II ended, one organization had become synonymous with terror, ideological fanaticism, and industrialized murder: the Schutzstaffel, the SS.
Dass ich anständig meine Zeit verwendet habe im Dienste meines Volkes. Gib du jetzt deine Stimme ab. Wenn ja, dann tritt für mich ein, so wie ich für dich eingetreten bin.
What began as a tiny personal guard for Adolf Hitler in the 1920s transformed into a state within a state, controlling police, intelligence, concentration camps, and even military formations. Today, we're going to trace how the SS grew, how its structure enabled some of the worst crimes in human history, and why the legacy of the SS still matters. I'll also reveal a chilling figure later, a number that helps explain why historians classify the SS as one of the deadliest organizations of the 20th century. Later in the video, I'll explain how a shadowy branch of the SS carried out mass shootings across the Soviet Union, and why their method of killing changed the shape of genocide forever. Origins and rise. The SS started small. Established in April 1925 as a personal bodyguard unit for Hitler, it was initially part of the SA, stormtroopers, and tasked with protecting Nazi leaders and party meetings. Over the next decade, the SS was reshaped by one man above all others: Heinrich Himmler. Himmler turned the SS from a political guard into an ideologically driven elite, chosen for supposed racial purity, loyalty, and obedience. Under his direction, the SS took on responsibilities far beyond guarding: intelligence gathering, police administration, and ultimately the supervision of the camp system. Detail and significance. Himmler's vision was administrative as well as ideological. The SS would be the instrument of racial policy and social control in the Third Reich. Recruitment standards, racial vetting, and an internal mythology of sacrifice and duty created a closed organization whose members increasingly saw themselves as the Führer's chosen implementers. That closed culture, intense loyalty, insulated command, and bureaucratic reach is what made later atrocities both possible and systematic. I'll explain how that bureaucratic reach went from paperwork to gas chambers, and how ordinary-looking memos and rosters made mass murder efficient. Structure, branches, and ideology. To understand the SS, you have to understand its multiple branches. The SS was not a single thing. There was the Allgemeine SS, General SS, which handled political policing and party functions. The Waffen-SS, combat troops that fought alongside the Wehrmacht. The SS Totenkopfverbände, the units that ran the concentration and extermination camps. And the Sicherheitsdienst, SD, and Gestapo, which handled intelligence and political repression. This patchwork meant the SS exercised military, police, and ideological power simultaneously. Why that mattered? This combination, armed troops, secret police, and camp administration, is unusual. Most states separate military and police functions. The SS fused them, creating a flexible instrument able to intimidate, deport, shoot, and manage mass detention camps. Its ideology, steeped in racial pseudoscience and apocalyptic anti-Semitism, provided the moral justification for extreme measures. Later, I'll show how one of those branches, defined as an elite fighting force, was also implicated in war crimes, and how post-war courts grappled with whether an entire branch could be declared criminal. Operations, policing, occupation, and mass murder. Once Germany invaded Poland in 1939 and the Soviet Union in 1941, the SS moved from repression to organized mass murder. Special task forces, the Einsatzgruppen, followed the army into occupied territories. Officially part of the SS security apparatus, these mobile killing squads carried out mass shootings of Jewish communities, Roma, political commissars, and others. The Einsatzgruppen's operations were not chaotic outbreaks of violence. They were coordinated, documented, and supported by local collaborators and police. Specific methods and scale. These units often forced victims to dig their own graves, shot them in groups at ravines and forests, and kept meticulous lists. The mass shootings marked a phase of genocide in which murder was carried out openly and visibly, before the industrialization of killing in extermination camps became the primary method. The logistical lessons learned, deportation trains, record-keeping, coordination between Germany and local authorities, would be repurposed into the larger machinery of the Holocaust. Transition to camps. At the same time, the SS consolidated control of the concentration camp system. The first modern concentration camp under SS administration was Dachau, 1933, and from there the SS organized a vast system of camps for forced labor, extermination, and repression across Europe. Running these camps required administrative units, logistics, medical personnel, and guards, all organized under SS bureaucracy. In a few minutes, I'll quote the internationally recognized estimates of victims and explain the SS's central role in reaching those numbers, the human cost and the Holocaust. There is no way around the facts. The SS organized, staffed, and executed the mechanisms by which millions were murdered. Historians and major institutions agree that 6 million Jewish people were killed in the Holocaust, and the SS was central to the policies and institutions that enabled those murders. The mass shootings of the Einsatzgruppen, the administration of extermination and concentration camps, and the deportation machinery that sent victims to gas chambers or to die in forced labor. The Nazi regime also murdered millions of others: Soviet POWs, Roma, Polish intelligentsia, people with disabilities, and many civilians, as part of a broader program of persecution. A human perspective. Numbers can help us grasp scale, but never the depth of suffering. What the SS did was administrative and mechanical: dispatch orders, schedule transports, process paperwork. Yet those cold bureaucratic acts translated into human horror. The combination of ideology, organization, and technology allowed mass murder to be carried out at an industrial level. If you remember the teaser from the start, the chilling figure is partly the Holocaust scale, millions killed, and partly the SS's role in making genocide systematic and routinized across occupied Europe. Accountability and legacy. After the war, the world asked how to hold such an organization accountable. The International Military Tribunal at Nuremberg declared the SS, along with the Gestapo and SD, a criminal organization. That legal designation allowed prosecutors to pursue members for crimes connected to the SS's activities, though courts also recognized complexity. For example, differentiating early non-criminal membership from later criminal participation, or conscripts who had limited involvement. Still, the Nuremberg judgment cemented the basic principle: organizations that systematically planned and carried out crimes against humanity could be treated as criminal entities. Why it matters today. The SS's example is a warning. When ideology is fused to state power and when institutions are insulated from scrutiny, the path to atrocity becomes easier. Remembering the history of the SS isn't about abstract condemnation. It's about recognizing signs before they become disasters: bureaucratic dehumanization, unchecked security apparatus, and propaganda that strips groups of dignity. Culture, indoctrination, and symbols. One reason the SS became so dangerous wasn't just its weapons or bureaucracy. It was its culture of indoctrination. Himmler built the SS around myths of racial superiority, medieval imagery, and ritualistic practices. Members swore oaths directly to Hitler, not to Germany or its constitution, making their loyalty personal and absolute. The SS used symbols like the black uniform, the skull insignia, Totenkopf, and the double lightning bolt runes to create a distinct identity. These weren't just fashion choices. They built a sense of elitism, mystique, and fear. Influence of indoctrination. Training schools for SS officers emphasized ideological education as much as military tactics. Cadets studied pseudo-scientific racial theories, Germanic history, and the idea that brutality was necessary to defend the Reich. Songs, rituals, and coded language reinforced belonging to an elite brotherhood. This manufactured loyalty meant that orders, no matter how cruel, could be executed without hesitation. The SS wasn't just obeying commands, it had built a worldview where atrocity felt justified. But what happened when that worldview collapsed in 1945? And why do some people still try to resurrect these symbols today, despite their bloody history? Aftermath, memory, and modern warnings. By 1945, the SS was dismantled, its leaders executed or imprisoned, and its symbols banned in Germany. But the story didn't simply end there. Thousands of SS veterans blended back into civilian life, some escaping justice. Post-war governments and historians wrestled with how to document crimes, prosecute perpetrators, and educate future generations. In West Germany, debates raged for decades over how much collective responsibility SS members bore. In East Germany, the narrative was used as propaganda against the West. Modern echoes. Today, the SS remains a symbol of absolute tyranny and organized evil. Yet, in dark corners of the internet and extremist movements, SS symbols are sometimes revived as emblems of hate. This is why memorials, museums, and education matter. The Holocaust wasn't inevitable. It was built step by organizations like the SS that dehumanized, excluded, and then destroyed. Remembering the SS's crimes is not about the past alone. It's about vigilance in the present. The SS reminds us that institutions, once radicalized and given unchecked power, can transform societies in terrifying ways. That's why their legacy still echoes today. The Waffen-SS in combat and war crimes. While much of the SS focused on policing, camps, and ideology, the Waffen-SS became a major military force. At first it was small, but during World War II it expanded into dozens of divisions, drawing recruits not only from Germany but from across occupied Europe. Propaganda presented the Waffen-SS as an elite fighting unit, dedicated and fearless. Many of its divisions fought in major battles. France in 1940, the Eastern Front, Normandy, and the Battle of the Bulge. But alongside battlefield reputation came another reality. The Waffen-SS was deeply implicated in war crimes. Examples: in France in 1944, members of the SS Das Reich division massacred 642 civilians at Oradour-sur-Glane. On the Eastern Front, Waffen-SS divisions carried out brutal anti-partisan campaigns that blurred the line between combat and mass killing. Civilians were often targeted as collective punishment. Some SS units worked hand-in-hand with the Einsatzgruppen and camp guards. By the war's end, the Waffen-SS was both a major fighting force and an extension of genocidal policy. In the next part, I'll show how, after defeat, many of these men tried to slip through the cracks, and how the hunt for SS fugitives became a story that stretched into the 21st century. Post-war justice, escape, and the hunt for SS members. When Nazi Germany collapsed, many SS leaders were captured, tried, or executed. At Nuremberg, the SS as a whole was declared a criminal organization, which meant mere membership could be grounds for prosecution. Himmler himself committed suicide after capture, while other top figures like Ernst Kaltenbrunner were sentenced to death. But the SS was vast, over 800,000 men by the war's end, and not all could be held accountable. Escapes and denials. Thousands of SS members went underground. Some used forged papers to escape to South America through so-called rat lines, secret networks that smuggled fugitives via Italy and Spain. Names like Adolf Eichmann and Josef Mengele became infamous as symbols of unpunished SS criminals. Eichmann was eventually captured in Argentina in 1960 by Israeli agents and put on trial in Jerusalem. Mengele, however, evaded justice, living in South America until his death in 1979. Modern hunt. For decades after the war, Nazi hunters like Simon Wiesenthal worked tirelessly to track fugitives, arguing that crimes against humanity had no expiration date. Even in the 21st century, trials of aging SS guards remind us that accountability is ongoing. These prosecutions serve not only as justice, but as memory, to ensure the world doesn't forget. Women in the SS and auxiliary roles. When we think of the SS, the image is often of men in black uniforms. But women also played roles, especially in the camp system. Around 3,500 women served as SS Aufseherinnen, or female guards, at camps such as Ravensbrück, Auschwitz, and Majdanek. While not combat soldiers, many were directly involved in guarding prisoners, supervising forced labor, and participating in atrocities. Survivors testified that some of these women were just as brutal as their male counterparts. Examples: women like Irma Gress, nicknamed the Hyena of Auschwitz, became infamous for their cruelty. At just 22 years old, Gress was convicted of war crimes and executed in 1945. Others, like Herta Bothe and Ilse Koch, were also tried for crimes connected to the camp system. Their presence reminds us that the machinery of persecution wasn't limited to men. Ideology and indoctrination crossed gender lines. Reflection. These women often claimed after the war that they were just following orders, or that their role was administrative. Yet, testimony and records show that many took initiative in acts of brutality. Their involvement complicates our understanding of the SS, showing how ordinary individuals, including young women, could be transformed into perpetrators within the Nazi system. Why studying the SS still matters today? Why revisit the story of the SS in the 21st century? Because the SS shows us how radical ideology, bureaucratic systems, and blind loyalty can turn institutions into engines of destruction. These lessons aren't locked in the past. Around the world today, extremist movements still use dehumanizing rhetoric, uniforms, and symbols to build identity and justify violence. The SS is a case study in how dangerous those patterns can become when combined with state power. Modern warnings. Symbols of the SS are banned in Germany, yet they appear in extremist propaganda elsewhere, often stripped of context and used to glorify violence. This is why history education, memorials, and survivor testimony remain essential. They are safeguards against forgetting because forgetting opens the door to repetition. The SS wasn't just an organization. It was a warning written in history. By studying its rise, crimes, and collapse, we're not just remembering victims, but also equipping ourselves to recognize the signs of dehumanization and authoritarianism in our own time. That's why this story matters now, perhaps more than ever. Resistance against the SS. While the SS projected itself as an unstoppable force, it was not without opposition. Across occupied Europe, resistance groups targeted SS officers, disrupted transport lines, and documented atrocities. In Poland, underground movements risked everything to smuggle information about Auschwitz to the outside world. In the Soviet Union, partisan fighters launched sabotage missions that harassed SS anti-partisan units. Even within Germany, small circles like the White Rose movement condemned SS brutality, distributing leaflets that exposed crimes against civilians. Acts of defiance. Inside the camps themselves, some prisoners resisted the SS despite unimaginable odds. At Sobibor in 1943, inmates organized an uprising. Killing SS guards and breaking out, hundreds escaped, though many were later recaptured. At Auschwitz, the Sonderkommando revolt of 1944 saw prisoners set fire to a crematorium, killing SS men before being crushed. These acts remind us that even under total terror, people refused to surrender their humanity. Legacy of resistance. The SS tried to create an image of total control, but resistance proved it could be challenged. Survivors and witnesses later testified in trials, ensuring that the SS's crimes could not be hidden. Their courage laid the foundation for post-war justice and today's remembrance culture. And so, even though the SS represented one of the deadliest organizations of the 20th century, its legacy is also shaped by those who fought, resisted, and testified, ensuring that history would not forget. The story of the SS is not just a tale of uniforms and symbols. It is a reminder of how an ideology, fused with bureaucracy, loyalty, and fear, can turn ordinary institutions into engines of mass destruction. From its small beginnings as Hitler's Guard, the SS grew into one of the deadliest organizations of the 20th century, responsible for mass shootings, concentration camps, and genocide. Yet as we've seen, there were also those who resisted, fought back, and testified, ensuring that the truth could never be erased. Today, remembering the SS is not about reliving the past. It's about learning how to recognize danger signs in the present: blind obedience, dehumanizing propaganda, and unchecked power. These lessons are as urgent now as they were in 1945. If this video helped you understand the full scale of the SS, its rise, crimes, and the courage of those who stood against it, please like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into history. And I want to hear from you. Should our next video explore the Einsatzgruppen trials, the lives of SS fugitives, or the resistance movements that defied Nazi terror? Let me know in the comments. History remembered is history that cannot be repeated.